We don't fall in love with people. We fall in love with images, with pictures that we create ourselves. But the truth always comes with exhaustion, with no, with reality. And then you're left facing the only question: do you love me or the picture of me? They were perfect, but only in photographs. One click and you're with us, together until we hit our first 1,000. They seemed perfect, in photos, in cafes, for friends. But the truth is, they were perfect only as long as it was a game. Because we don't fall in love with people. We fall in love with illusions of people, with the picture, with promises, with carefully edited moments. And each time we convince ourselves, this is it, the real thing. But reality is always harsher. It doesn't come with filters and likes. It comes with bills, sleepless nights, and other people's no's. And then the picture cracks. Perfect becomes real, and real always hurts more. He thought he loved a woman who always smiled. She thought she loved a man who always understood. They didn't love each other. They loved their illusions. The first blow is always minor. A cup in the wrong place. A text without a reply. You're late again. And suddenly, the air is heavier than words. Silence louder than screaming. And one day in their perfect kitchen, there were 2 phones and 2 people, seemingly together, but each in their own reality. He said, "You've changed." She replied, "No. I just stopped pretending." And that was the moment of truth. Real relationships begin when the imitation ends. Perfect ones die right there. Because the scariest question you can ask in love sounds like this: do you love me or the picture of me? And if you're afraid of the answer, your perfect love is already over. After the first no, the illusion always cracks. It's like glass. For a long time, it seems transparent and strong, but one hit of reality and the shards are already under your feet. Their story didn't collapse immediately. From the outside, they still looked like that perfect couple. But inside, a quiet rift had begun. He noticed her fatigue but pretended not to see it. She felt his irritation but was afraid to call things by their real names. They both chose silence, and silence in relationships always works the same way. First, it saves you from a fight, then it kills the connection itself. He still wanted to believe she was easygoing, always understanding. She still wanted to believe he was attentive, always sensitive. But here's the truth: no one is always anything. Real life doesn't tolerate the word perfect. Real life is exhaustion in the eyes, cold looks in the morning, fights over nothing, tears for no reason. It's not what they show in movies. It's what tests who's really standing in front of you. And then one day everything collapsed. An ordinary fight that started over nothing. He was late from work. She couldn't take it anymore. "You never consider me. I'm working for us." "No, you work because it's easier than being with me for real." These words hit harder than any scream, because for the first time, she wasn't playing a role. She was telling it like it was. And he didn't recognize her. Not the one from the photos, not the one who always smiled, but the real one. Tired, angry, wounded. And in that moment he understood. Loving an image is easy. Loving a real person is almost impossible. She was also looking at him differently. Not at the perfect man, but at a living person with weaknesses, hurt feelings, closed eyes. And that was scary. Because if you love an image, you have a fairy tale. If you love a person, you have life. And life always hurts more than fairy tales. From that day on, everything changed. Every conversation became a battlefield. Every touch became a question. Do you still feel me? And every evening became a silent movie. 2 actors who had forgotten their roles. He tried to bring back the perfect, with gifts, with smiles, with words, but it all sounded fake. Because once you've heard the truth, there's no going back. They stood at the edge, not together, but each on their own. They looked at each other and understood. The ideal was dead, and now they had only 2 paths: either build real relationships for the first time, or admit that it was all over. After the collapse of illusion, relationships always have two options. They become honest, or they turn into war. For them, the war began. Not with screaming, not with scandals, but with small blows every day. He would come home late and return in silence. She would meet him with a look that held too many questions and not a single answer. He would sit down with his phone as if someone was waiting for him there. She would go to bed first, leaving half the bed cold. Nothing was said out loud, but everything was already clear. He felt betrayed. I'm giving everything. Why isn't it enough for her? She felt deceived. I fell in love with one person, but I'm living with another. And every day a wall grew between them, not made of stone, made of things left unsaid, of fake smiles, of those everything's fines that sound louder than any scream. Once they shared dreams, now they shared accusations. You don't hear me, and you don't appreciate me. You've changed. You were always like this. Love doesn't disappear in one big moment. It dies in 1,000 small ones, in a cup placed in the wrong spot, in a phone put down screen side down, in a later message that never becomes now. They both understood everything, but each thought the other one is to blame. She tried to fight for truth. He tried to fight for silence, and together they fought each other. Sometimes they still laughed. Sometimes they still hugged. But even these moments were fragile, like thin ice, because somewhere deep down, each knew the ice would crack. The only question was when. The scariest part, they still loved each other. But love without trust becomes a weapon. It turns every word into a jab, every pause into suspicion, every night into another step toward breaking up. He started thinking, maybe I was wrong from the very beginning. She started thinking, maybe he never really loved me. Only his picture of me. And at some point it became clear, they were no longer a couple. They were two lonely people living side by side. But this is where the cruelest part begins. Because leaving is always harder than staying, even if staying means slowly dying inside. They tried to hold on, but they weren't holding on to each other. They were holding on to the picture, and pictures always tear. One morning, she simply said, I'm not leaving. I've already left. I'm just picking up my things later. In that phrase, everything died, not from betrayal, not from cheating, from the fact that they had never loved each other's real selves, only the made-up versions. He remained in silence, without the perfect couple, without photos for other people's likes, just him and the mirror, and a question that sounded louder than any scream. Who did I love, her or my illusion, or my?